All right, guys, let's talk a little bit about a couple of UIL rules that have come under fire lately. Let's talk about number one, the concussion rule that basically says if a player suffers a concussion, head injury of any type, that they need to be out of the game, cannot come back in. Now, this did not happen in Weslaco Mercedes. Number 9 there, you see the safety, hit, got woozy, fell over, came back in a couple of series later. The refs caught it, send him back out. I'm interested in what you guys think. I mean, the rule says that if they're suffering from a concussion, they have to be out for the rest of the game, can't come back until they're cleared by a licensed healthcare professional. Jake, we're saving these kids from themselves, aren't we, or are we going too far?
No, I think it's just right where they need to be, because kids will play through it because they don't know any better. And I think as adults, you have to watch out for their safety and their future. I think what the trainers did or the refs did by pulling them, taking them out of the game, was the right thing to do.
What do you think, Greg?
Well, I believe that you always like to err on the side of caution, particularly when you're dealing with health and particularly when you're dealing with minors. I would wonder and I worry if we're not guilty of a little bit of an overreach here. Now, you know, I'm not saying I like or dislike the rule. My jury's still out. But I would say that kids have been getting their bell rung since they started playing the game. And there's a difference between a real concussion and between a kid just having to clear his head. So it boils down to how we define a concussion. And I believe that we're defining it a little too tightly, and I think they need to just pay attention to the rule and how it plays out. So I'm not against it, right, but I'm just saying let's not make sure we micromanage the game like we micromanage every other aspect of our life. All
right, speaking of micromanagement, the new UIL regarding excessive celebration came into play a couple of weeks ago with Pace and Harlingen South, when a Pace player made an interception, pick 6, ran back for a touchdown, but held up the ball at the end, and it gets called back because of the new excessive celebration rule, which is now a live ball foul, which means that it gets taken back to the spot of the infraction, and then a 15-yard penalty. So the touchdown was taken back. It gets taken back to the 30. Now remember, folks, this one got enacted by the coaches. The coaches and the ADs in the state of Texas wanted this rule. Greg, I don't like it. How about you?
Well, I like you, but I like the rule.
Okay.
I think it's great, and I'll tell you why. You need to have some dignity when you play this game. And I believe that, you know, as long as it doesn't become micromanaging, exuberance of a spontaneous variety is cool. The difference here, I think we're trying to teach these cats, is it's got to be collective. If it's individual, look at me, that's no good. In other words, as an educator, I'm trying to teach my kids to learn how to be part of an organization, and that doesn't include shucking and jiving and stuff. It means a little, wow, we won or we did good. But a lot of this one's designed to make sure that the kid doesn't moonwalk down the sidelines. That kind of stuff is stupid. I think it's a great rule.
Hey, I'll agree with you on that. I don't like that, but does there need to be a little leeway for referees in order to judge it on the parameters?
You know, and I said it before, I love the movie Wildcats. I love all that stuff they did in the movie. But the thing is, I spoke with some refs, or a ref before we came on, and we were talking about the rule. And it's if they alter their stride by going in for a touchdown, if they point the ball at the opposing players in a taunting manner, if they punch their chest or pump their chest after a nice hit. We saw that play that got brought back against Harlingen South and Pace. But we saw 2 plays before we went to the break where there was an interception. The kid got up, pointed the ball in the air. No play. I don't think anything was called that game because we would have heard about it.
Right.
And then he also had a pick for a touchdown. He held the ball up in the air. There needs to be some consistency because it's a judgment call. And I think that, you know, depending on your crew, the game, the way the game's going, you're going to see refs call it tighter or call it looser. So my problem is this: if a kid intercepts the ball and he's going in for a touchdown at the end of a game to win the game, and he does that, what are we going to do? You know, because there's
what we're going to do, we're going to lose.
Yeah.
Well, there's a learning curve with the refs. Hopefully we'll be more consistent. Everybody will have kind of a baseline of how to call it. But all I can say is that when Earl Campbell used to score a touchdown, he didn't do nothing but throw the ball to the ref because he knew he'd been there. He acted like he'd been there before. I think overwhelmingly, if it's done right, I think it's going to be a teaching thing.
One thing I did want to clear this up. They also said that, you know, there's no throat slashing, there's nothing like that, no gun kind of like stuff like that, which I can understand that. But if a kid's running in for a touchdown and he puts the ball up in the air, not pointing at another player,
Yeah, I mean, I don't find a real problem with it. I mean, I don't expect them to march in the single file line and, you know, be quiet or you get put in timeout. Yeah.
Point is, coaches made this. If you don't like the rule, talk to your coaches. Maybe they can define it a little better. Pointing the ball up in the air as opposed to pointing it to someone. We'll see.